Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 53. In this episode, I speak with Scott Trost. Scott is the executive director of the Meisner Institute. I met Scott through the Playhouse West acting community here in Los Angeles, which is a Meisner acting technique school. So with the Meisner Institute, Scott and his team teach this Meisner technique all over the world, which I think is fascinating. And it was a true treat to have him come on, talk to us about what he does, and just get to know Scott better. And he's a fascinating individual. And we had been talking about doing this for a while, so I'm really glad we were able to find a date before he jet sets around the world once again. And I have to give Scott an extra thank you because he drove here in pouring rain, which it doesn't often happen here in Los Angeles, but the one night we did this, it did. So thank you, Scott, for going the extra mile for us. And the book of the episode is actually a book Scott co-wrote called Da Tree a Wee. James Carville and Scott Trost. It is based upon Sandy Meisner, his longtime partner, James Carville, and their adopted son, Baloo, and their life and how they all met and their stories. And I have not read the full book yet, but I've started to read it, and it's fascinating. It's really cool to learn more of the life of these three individuals, especially Sandy, and someone that had given so much to the acting community, to get a behind-the-scenes look of his life. So, book of the episode, Da Tree a Wee by James Carville and Scott Trost. If you listen to the podcast, be sure to listen on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to watch the podcast, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/@thesamdeverpodcast. Here's my conversation with Scott. Scott Trost.
Scott Trost.
Welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast.
Well, thank you, Sam. You know, I saw you the other night at that show, and
yeah,
it was just such. My wife was saying, "Do you think we'll see anybody we know?" And I said, "I'm sure, probably not, because it's been a while." And there you were. So
it's funny because I even told my girlfriend, I thought I was going to run into everyone there. I'm going to see so many people I know. I get there, I know no one.
No, yeah, that's usually how it goes these days. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, a couple people get, oh, I know you. And then I'm like, oh, it's Scott. Podcast. Yes, we're going to do this.
Were you ever in my class?
No.
So I never had an exercise where I said something to you.
Nope, we're clean. There is no resentment. Good. I remember talking to you a lot, but I really got to connect with you as at one of the 120-hour film festivals.
Oh, yeah?
You were working with Gar.
Oh, okay.
Moore and Chris Gapto.
Okay, Gapo.
Gapo. And you guys, I loved your film you guys did for that. Do you remember it?
I do, but I don't think the rest of the people liked it that much.
Oh.
So thank you.
No, I really liked it. I thought it was very well done. I think it was the Hitchcock one, wasn't it?
It was the alien thing. They were wandering around on Earth, and they were taking some hostage back whatever planet they were from.
Yeah. No, that was good.
It was. I loved it. I thought it was a great little piece, but kind of strange and off center.
Yeah.
So thank you.
People just weren't ready for it. The art was just too advanced.
That's right. Well, we had these we did those, camera shots where we just a stationary camera, and then people are kind of walking through it, and it's, so the concept was great, but when you saw it, it looked pretty boring. Again, unless you kind of fell into it.
It was a very unique concept. That's what I remember. I really liked the concept because I felt you guys took, when you think alien movies, it has to be huge technology and spaceships, but and that's credit to the acting and the writing that was in that. It's like, oh, wow, you can bring across those strong concepts in very simple ways if done correctly.
I'm so glad you're mentioning the movie making that we both were a part of. When I first started at Playhouse West, which is where we met, this was before the digital age.
Mm.
And I remember just feeling like we were all stuck. I did some work in the business. I've had some TV and film stuff, but, really not anything significant. And I thought we gotta start telling our stories. So I said, let's do a film festival. And organized the first Playhouse West Film Festival. We screened, 3 or 4 movies at Lancashire. But back then, making a short film cost $20,000.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're shooting with film, and then you have to get developing, and I mean, the costs were outrageous. But we got it going, and now that's just, you assume that if you're going to be studying acting, you're going to at some point start making some films, and what a great thing that is.
So you were behind the first Playhouse West Film Festival.
I am the founder of the Playhouse West Film Festival.
Wow!
Now, I did it for 2 or 3 years, then left town for a few years. Tony Savant was the one that took it over and really built it up to, I mean, we did some amateur hour film festivals.
You got the ball rolling.
Yeah. I that's what I'll take credit for the ball. Get the
you
ball.
broke ground.
Right. But yeah, he really, and then Wolf after that.
Wolf took it over.
And those guys have done just a fans. I had a chance to go to Philadelphia, where Tony has started another school and built out this amazing group of filmmakers. I mean, just super dedicated guys and creating all kinds of amazing stuff. So I mean, he's a wonder how prodigious he is.
I've heard nothing but amazing things about that guy. I've never met. We're Facebook friends.
Oh, okay,
but I've never met him in person. But no, I've heard nothing but wonderful.
We have a lot of history together. Again, a lot of years where good things and bad things. But that's when you're working creatively, there's always going to be some good moments and bad moments. But he's still, I consider him a dear friend, and devoted to him as someone who also has dedicated his life to acting and the arts and creating things, and helping others create things. I think that's his real gift.
Absolutely. And I got to mention really quick, so when I first moved to LA about 5 years ago and joined Playhouse right off the bat, that festival happened pretty quickly from getting there. And all of us in our beginner group went there, and I was blown away.
Oh, yeah.
It was like the best thing I had ever been to. It was packed. The movies were awesome. Oh, yeah. There were events each night, and I'm like, what is this place? This place rocks, man. It's like, isn't that amazing? So yeah, that's to your credit.
It would have happened eventually, but it was one of those instincts or impulses you have, and it was the right impulse, which is let's start taking control of our own destiny and create things, tell stories. That's what we're here for, is to tell stories. Whether or not we ever tell stories in the studio system or getting paid. I mean, before I came to LA, I did a lot of community theater up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I mean, no one was making money. We were just creating these amazing pieces of theater. And some of my greatest experiences as an actor was on stage there. So that's what we should be doing, is telling stories. That's our job, telling stories, whether we get paid for it or don't get paid for it, whether one person sees it or a bunch of people see it. We're all going to get forgotten in the end. My kids are older now, but I remember at one point I was talking to them and I said, who's your favorite actor? And they mentioned some current folks. And I said, well, mine, of course, would be Marlon Brando. And they both looked at me and they say, who? And I'm thinking, oh my God, we're all going to be forgotten someday. Even Marlon Brando, greatest actor of the 20th century, is going to be forgotten. So we don't escape that fate. And in that way, I think it's liberating. So the idea of becoming famous or achieving something where people know who you are, that's really transitory. But those magical moments where you're sitting in the theater the other night, I looked over at you and you were having an experience from what you were watching. I saw it. Do you remember that? Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the same moment it was so interesting. There was just a moment where, oh my God, the heartache and the pain and we were suffering with them.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we are trying to do as actors, is to create something that magically helps people in the audience. It's like the old ancient Greeks, catharsis, just getting these emotional things out as the audience because the actor is doing it also. So that's what I'm proud of, is helping more actors tell stories and bring those things to life.
You really just spoke to me, because that's really, like, as of late, I just feel like I've awakened more to, you're exactly, we're all going to be forgotten. There was some, unless you're Jesus Christ,
Alexander the Great,
Julius Caesar, and maybe, I mean, as time goes on, it just gets buried and buried and buried.
Yeah.
But even like someone I'd mentioned, like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs will be forgotten in 200 years, possibly. And it's like, so it does give you perspective that the inevitable is coming. And this is your time to create and tell stories. And you're right, it did used to cost $20,000, $30,000 to do a short film. But now we have these. There's really no excuse now.
We could shoot a film right now.
Yeah.
Actually, we are shooting
a film.
But I mean, you could be my brother, and we're now having that difficult conversation. I mean, already I'm feeling like you're sinking into that.
Yeah.
You don't even know what the situation is yet, but you're already, I mean, do you feel it?
Yeah.
Isn't it so interesting? That's one of the things I've been really fascinated with lately, as I go around the world a lot now, and working with schools in other countries and actors in other countries. And there's that moment where when you're working with an actor and you start saying, okay, so you're my brother, there's a problem. And I'm just watching you as I'm saying that. And I can just see you're kind of, you don't know where you're going yet, but you're allowing yourself to go there. And I'm realizing now that there is a magic moment possibility. And I think that's what you're trying to do as a teacher, is first to do it with your actors, but then to help them learn how to do it themselves. I think it can happen really quickly. I've been working with some teachers recently who are hypnotists. This is going to sound really weird, so bear with me. So this guy, Connor Graham, he's a wonderful teacher and wonderful guy. And he's a hypnotist. And I said, Connor, you gotta, be honest with me. Like, is it set up? Like,
right.
Do you guys like work that out?
Work? Yeah.
And he goes, no, he goes, if you work with the right people who are open to suggestion and you talk to them the right way, you can help them access subconscious stuff, their imagination. And he was telling me about it. I'm going, well, wait a second. Isn't that what we're trying to do as actors? Is to access that part of ourselves that allows us to believe crazy stuff that's not true.
Truthfully, under imaginary circumstances. Yeah.
So I'm becoming very fascinated in the ways in which we might help actors find that more quickly. And I think you were the same. I rehearsed more than anybody else in my class. I mean, I was going to work myself to success.
Right.
I mean, and the teachers I had, just if you work hard enough, you're going to make progress. And it's true. But I think there's also opportunities to really jump. And that's where I think the great teachers, they see the opportunity to shift someone from where, like almost like they're going along like this. And then there's just another level that they can jump up to if you can just find the right moment.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting. As I was just saying that, I'm going, okay, I think there's a moment here for you. I think there's actually a moment here where I could say some things to you and you would go, okay. And then there we would go. And then you'd come out of that and you go, oh, okay, I can do that now.
You're exactly right. Like, it's like, even like going into this podcast, like, you always think, I mean, going back to the Meisner, like you can't plan how it's going to go.
No.
The same when you do a scene, you just, you've done the work for the
Yeah.
scene, but you let the scene be the scene. Like same
Yeah.
thing with this, and even us having this dialogue conversation, it's already going places that I'm like, oh wow, this is an amazing ride so far. I was going to ask you your background and tell me if we can still get to all that, but this is great. Are you from the Midwest, by the way?
I'm from Oklahoma.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So would we call that the Midwest? I suppose so.
You said Michigan. I'm from Illinois originally. So.
Oh, well, I lived in Michigan for several years. I moved around a lot, but I grew up in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And when I was very young, I was very shy. My mother put me in a children's acting class. She said, you never stop talking after that. So it cured me of my shyness.
Yeah.
But, you know, I know that I think that you know that too, is that many of the actors you meet are actually in real life, they're actually pretty shy people. And I think that's why they are attracted to acting, is because it's the one place where they can come to life and have some freedom. And so I was one of those type of kids. So I did a lot of acting when I was a kid. Went to an experimental college in Michigan. Taught a class in frisbee throwing. I was actually an All-American frisbee player.
Really?
College. Yeah. I was a jock in high school.
Like frisbee golf, or just like
I was on the frisbee golf tour for a while. Actually, we had the first professional frisbee golf organization in Oklahoma when I was in high school. We formed it. But ultimate frisbee was the game I ended up playing in college, and then did that. And so I taught a frisbee class. Then I had to do something like responsible. My father convinced me to apply to law schools. So I went to law school. Came back to Michigan, worked at a legal aid. So I was representing low-income women who were being physically abused by boyfriends and husbands. So I was doing domestic violence work. Crazy stuff. I mean, just so intense. I always get it's so interesting. People go, well, you know, isn't it like being a lawyer, like being an actor, you're pretending? I say, yeah, but the difference is in law, there's real consequences. In acting, there's no consequences. Yeah. But I mean, I would be going to court, and if I didn't get the restraining order or the help that this woman needed, she might die. And I just remember like the responsibility that I felt just going in and going, if it, you know, I have to do something or bad things could happen to this person. So I did that for a while, but then I wandered into a theater one day in Grand Rapids that was having auditions for Cyrano de Bergerac. Got a part as the young lover. Walked into the theater, immediately fell in love with the leading lady. So I was hooked again on acting. And then I realized that I should go back to school, get a degree in acting, and then go to LA and start my career. So that's what I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had no idea about any of that.
Yeah. No, and I did all
That's
that.
amazing.
And then this last few years, I've actually gone back into the law because I got married and had a family and had to actually support a family. So went back and worked at a firm that represented people that had this disease, mesothelioma.
I've heard of that.
It's a fatal cancer caused by exposure to asbestos. And I was the sign-up guy. So I traveled to 47 states, over 600 families, walking into houses with people who were dying. There's no cure. 6 to 18 months.
Wow. And
sitting there with the family and crying, praying, just these, and you know, great people who were dying for no good reason other than there was some people running companies that were greedy and didn't tell their workers that there was dangers, even though they knew there was. So did that for several years, and then we moved back to LA and started doing the acting stuff again and teaching, and then got involved with the Meisner Institute, which is a result of becoming friends with Jimmy Carville. Did you ever meet? That was after, it was before your time. So Jimmy Carville was Sandy Meisner's partner for 30 years. Okay. Meisner was married a couple of times. And then he got involved with Jimmy, and Jimmy always said Sandy was bisexual. But he said actually probably liked girls more than boys, but he and Jimmy became a couple, and Jimmy was quite much a bit younger than Sandy, and passed away just last year. So he was 93, I think. Wow. But we became good friends, and he asked me to take over the Meisner Institute and build it out internationally. So I've been so blessed to be working. I was just in Russia this last year, in Egypt, in Israel, Greece, Turkey, these amazing programs, amazing actors, and so alive. And what I love about them is they're still, what's the right word? They're fresh. They're not jaded. They're in LA, sometimes you get that sort of harsh, jaded feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
And you kind of get just overwhelmed by the business and the
tough
struggle.
city.
Yeah, it is a tough city, unfortunately. But they're just alive, and they want to open up. And the Meisner work is new to them, so it's new to their whole culture. So they're just like going, "Oh my God, this is the greatest thing that ever happened." And you remember that when you first started doing Meisner, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Like you just going, "Oh my God, I'm a different person now."
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it changes. It only changes how you act, but it changes you as a person. Mm-hmm. And so I get to go around helping people have that experience, and then teaching teachers how to help people have that experience. So I'm have like the greatest job ever now.
It sounds like an incredible job.
you got to come with me. Will you do that?
Yeah, heck yeah. It'd be awesome. Take this on the road and talk to people. So it sounds like a lot of, and I want to get in more details, but like a place like LA, New York, I mean, people very business oriented with the acting and mentality, which you should be, trying to do that. But in these other places you're at, not saying that they don't want to be professional actors, but is it more they're just coming from more of a pure place with it? They just want to learn the acting? Or do a lot of them have goals with it?
It's amazing how seductive Hollywood is internationally. I mean, I was just in Egypt, and like everyone there goes, I want to go to LA. I want to become famous.
Okay.
And I go, oh God, do I start telling them those stories? I had one great one when I first got to LA. I had an agent, and they set me up with a general interview with a casting director, and I walk in, and the casting director says, "Oh, I think I want you to come in tomorrow for this role." And I'm going, "Wow, this is good. This is easy, man. I didn't realize it was going to be this easy." Yeah. So I get the script, and it's a TV series, and it's a update of the Perry Mason show. So it's a murder mystery. Fraternal twins in law school murder some guy, and I'm reading for the guy fraternal twin, and I'm thinking, now I understand why I'm getting brought in, because they must have already cast the female, and they're looking for someone that could pass as her twin, and I must look just like her. So I'm thinking, great. So I prepare the scene, and I go in the next day, and I walk into this room, 20 guys, all sitting there, look exactly like me. I mean, there's a little skinnier one, there's a fatter one, there's a taller one, there's a shorter one, but I mean, we could all be. And I'm thinking, oh my God, the rest of my career here in LA, I'm going to be auditioning, and I'm not even I don't even stand out by myself. I mean, if they want me, they have 20 other guys that they can bring in for me. And you just don't appreciate that, how much, just how many people. Another audition I went to, it was a clothing, for a clothing store, just a commercial. 3 beautiful women walking down the street, and then 3 guys walking the other way, and the guys pass, and then they look back at the women, they go, wow. So obviously the casting call is for women who can turn men's heads, right? So I'm obviously auditioning for one of the guys, and I go in right when they're finishing up with the women auditions, and it's a room full of the most beautiful women. Any of them, you would get on your knees and say, "Can I just devote my life to you?" I mean, they're so gorgeous. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, 3 of them are going to get the job. The rest of them are going to go home going, I guess I'm just not pretty enough. And you know that all of them grew up in some place with people saying, "Oh my God, you're the most beautiful woman that ever lived. You should go to LA and become an actor." And now here they're in LA, and it's a town filled with beautiful women. And so unless they get lucky or they do something special or who knows what, they're not gonna have any more luck than you and I are gonna have. So when I was in Egypt and they're saying, "Oh yeah, I want to go to Hollywood and become,"
Yeah.
I'm just going, man, I don't want to take away that urge and that sort of beautiful feeling, but it's hard not to understand that this town is just so different than people. I mean, they know that it's difficult, but they don't really know.
Yeah.
And for anyone that's been here for a few years, you all of a sudden you really understand that.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up because this is a conversation I have off camera. We've had on the podcast. I've been here 5 years. You know way more people than I do, but just seeing the level of talent I've seen from Playhouse West and throughout town, and just seeing how great they are, but it's not enough for the business, and it has nothing to do with their talent. God. Nothing to do with their talent, but it just shows how hard it really is, and that your talent only plays a small role in having a career out here.
We both had that experience. You're sitting in class going, "This is some of the greatest acting I've ever seen."
Yeah.
And no one's ever going to know these people. They're never going to get jobs. And you're going, it's just tragic. Again, that's why back to the filmmaking thing. I just think that we have to get past that as actors, and we have to help our students get past that, to go, just start telling your stories, find whatever way you can to do it. Maybe you get lucky and you become famous. It's so interesting that, with the social media now and the ability to shoot your own film. There's people becoming famous now that have no talent, but just know how to work social media.
Yeah.
And so who knows now what the formula is for that, where you make a living at it. Again, I loved doing community theater because then there was no illusion that you were ever going to make a living at it. You were just going to do it because you loved doing it. Mm-hmm. So you had a day job. I was an attorney, but at night I was doing shows and living and doing all the great shows. That's what someone said. They said, "Why would I ever move from Grand Rapids when I'm going to get to play all the great roles?"
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. And they said, I'm having the greatest life that I could imagine. So that's what I hope I'm helping my students understand, and the actors that I work with, is that's what you're here in the world to do, is to share the talent you have with as many people as you can find that are willing to watch you.
Well, and I like what you said in the beginning. Like, you really should tell your story, whether one person is seeing it or 1,000. And I think you just have to love to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll quote him, Chris Levy at Playhouse West. Yeah. I swear I quote him like every other day.
Oh yeah. He says a lot of quotable things.
Yeah. He's the guru, but he said a lot of insight about, people coming to town. Same way you say, "Oh, I was the star over here, so I'm going to come here and I'm just going to rock it." And it's like, well, get in line. There's a line of 1,500 people, and they look just as good as you.
Yeah.
They're just as talented. Yeah. And also he said something, I'm paraphrasing, but he said that like your talent has 17% to do with you actually getting the role. There can be how you look. Are you the right height? Are you the right hair color? There's so many things that maybe your voice doesn't sound as good as the other person. Like, your acting, you got to be able to act, but it has such a smaller portion than one may think in this. And I never really understood. It's like I knew, but then I came out here, then I'm like, oh, I saw how big of a business it actually is. Like, getting an agent, doing the whole.
I got real lucky when I first came out. I went to DePaul University in Chicago, got an MFA degree there. It had formerly been the Goodman School of Drama, so it had a pretty good reputation. They did a showcase at the end of when we finished our 3 years there. So there were agents and managers who came in from LA, New York, and other places to watch us do a little showcase performance. So I did one, and this manager in LA came up to me afterwards. He says, "I like what I saw. I'd like to sign you." I said, "Great."
Yeah.
So came to LA, had a manager. He got me with a mid-level agency. So initially I was going out and, and that's, you just, one of the things you don't understand when you first come here is you got a casting director who's casting Star Trek. And they only have time to see a few people. They don't have time to see everyone. So they're going to see the people that from agents that they know that can talk their way in, and so that's how I was able to get some day jobs, some guest starring stuff on different TV, Melrose Place, Star Trek, General Hospital. I mean, these were all, just because I had some representation. But once that ended, because, I went along for a while doing that, and then I wasn't like going to the next level. Right. So they said, hey, it doesn't seem like you're progressing, so we're going to, say goodbye to you, move on to somebody else. Well, then I was back just at the beginning again. I mean, it was like I was starting all over again. It's hard to understand that when you first come to town. I do have an interesting Star Trek thing because
lay it on me.
So Star Trek,
which one is this? The Deep
Star Trek
Space
Next Generation.
Okay.
The other reason why I was able to get into the Star Trek Next Generation is because the casting director, Junie Lowry Johnson, is the sister of a good friend that I had in high school, Hunt Lowry, who's also in the business. Huh. And so obviously when I first came out, I called her up and called Hunt up, and they, super great people, couldn't have been friendlier. And Junie said, well, come on in. They had just finished their first season of Star Trek Next Generation. And so I go in and I meet Junie, and she goes, hey, I tell you what, we're actually doing some auditions next door. We're replacing, there's a cast member that's leaving the show. And you want to just come in and read for it? And I said, sure. So it turned out, they had that machine that transported people. Yeah. Okay. And there was a guy called the transporter chief.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this guy who had done a season was, for whatever reason, because who knows why, he was going to leave the show. So they had to replace this guy. So I walk in, I read a couple of lines, phaser's full or some, and they said thanks. And then I got a call and they said, you've been cast. You're gonna be the transporter chief.
Wow. And
I'm thinking, oh, okay, that's cool. Right. I'm not realizing that that's like huge moment, because we have 5 more seasons of Next Generation, appearing on every episode. That guy who changed his mind later that day. So when they called me later, they said, oh, that guy changed his mind. He's not going to leave the show, but we'll get you on. So that's how I ended up getting on the show. But I didn't get that role. He ended up being one of the leads in Deep Space Nine, the next Star Trek.
Yeah.
I mean, that change of his decision was a several $1 million change of fate in my life.
Wow.
Just like that. Just that. Boom. So that's the other thing, is just these random things that you just don't realize. Oh, the Quentin Tarantino story. You want to hear that one?
Oh yeah, we were talking about this before we started.
So I'm pretty sure this happened. Although I'm sometimes you start telling stories and you get worried that maybe you're embellishing too much. But I'm pretty sure I got a call from my agent. This was again when I was first in town, and they said, "Oh, there's an independent movie that's being cast, and why don't you go in for it?" And I went, and it was like this apartment complex, and I think there's, I went to this apartment, and I knocked on the door, and this guy answered it, and he was a weird guy, and he said, "Come on in," and he goes, "Thanks so much. You're the only one that's come today, and really, thanks." And I'm thinking, why did my agent say, this is ridiculous? What am I doing here? This is like I said, this is my first film, and I said, you know what? I'm really just, thank you, but I'm not interested. He goes, you sure? Because no one's showing up. And I said, no, thanks. And I go back home. I call my agent. I said, don't send me on stuff like that. Okay. Quentin Tarantino making his first film. Before Reservoir Dogs, he made a film
So one before Reservoir.
The one before Reservoir Dogs. I'm pretty sure that was Quentin Tarantino. And I blew him off because he was nobody. And this is again, I think the thing that's so hard for people to understand is it's like you, Eric, could be the most important person in this room right now. We don't know. He could be the next Quentin Tarantino. And so we're going to sit here and you're going to like talk to me because you think I'm important. I'm going to talk to you because I think you're important. But maybe he's the most important guy in the room that I need to make friends with, because he might be the guy that then is making films and go, that guy Scott Trost was really nice to me, and maybe I should call him in for this. But it's before they're famous, and so you don't know who that person's going to be.
Yeah.
That leads into the James Franco story. So I was in advanced class. Playhouse West was teaching at the time. And this beginning student came up to me and said, hey, I'd like to do a scene with you. I said, are you in the class? I don't. He goes, no, I'm a beginning student. I just came by and I just kind of snuck in and I saw your work and I really like it a lot. And I'd like to, I said, I don't think that's going to work out too well. And so the next week he was back again. He comes up to me again after class. He goes, really, I know you said no last week, but I'm here again. And please, I really would love to work with you. And I said, you got to understand, I'm an advanced student and I'm also a teacher here. You're a beginning student. And I don't mean this to sound rude, but I just don't work with beginning students. And he goes, oh, okay. And I noticed he walked over to this friend of mine and was talking to him. And my friend was like going, oh, it was like, obviously he was asking him now. And the friend was going, okay, sure. Right. Well, that was Brian Lowley. I don't know if you know Brian Lowley.
No, not as much.
And the guy the beginning student was James Franco, of course. And James, of course, has made a lot of films himself. And Brian Lowley has been in every film that he's made.
So you could, and Tarantino, he puts the same people in
Tarantino, the same James Franco, people I blew off. And again, it's just that it's so, you really need someone to be sitting you down when you first get here and say, everyone you talk to is an opportunity, and you don't know who is going to be. The person that's already established, well, you're never going to, I'm not going to get a meeting with Quentin Tarantino now. He already has his posse. He's already developed his friendships. It's going to be Eric, who's just beginning and is appreciative that anyone would work with him. That's going to be the person, if things go well, that they're going to be bringing you along for the ride. So I wish everyone heard those stories when they first got to Hollywood.
Yeah, it's funny because Eric, we were talking. Kathleen, a teacher at Playhouse, once, she subbed my class once, and she said, I never forgot this. She's like, you never know who you're sitting next to in class, because she's like, not everyone in this room is going to be an actor. Yeah. We're all doing the acting thing here, but someone's going to be a producer, someone's going to be a director, someone's going to be a cast. Like, it's like, and I was going to, you get me thinking it's a fine line too, right? Because you want to be genuine with people. Because it's also a town where people are trying to, oh, you're a director, huh?
We're actors, and we have vivid imaginations, and we can choose our point of view. I can look at you and decide, if I have the right point of view, I could decide I don't like you very much. I don't like the way, the way you dress. I could find ways to either not like you or be very neutral to you, or I could it's like what we learn about paying attention to the other person when we're acting. I could really look at you and go, you know what, this is a good guy. I like this guy. I'm seeing your heart, and you're a good guy. And so I can be genuine with you because I see you. Now, if I decide not to really look that closely at you, I can be really not very interested in you at all. So I think we have some choices that we can make with people, and that when we're in the business, we have to constantly find the point of view where we are seeking out the humanity of that person so that we do have an authentic reaction to them. I think I really do. Rex Lynn was a guy that I went to high school with, had a long career. He was in one of the CSI, I think CSI Miami. That was kind of his best career job. But he was one of those guys. He was a character actor kind of guy. And I said one time, I said, Rex, what, like, man, you came from Oklahoma and you got to town and, man, you just been working like nobody's business. He goes, 5 best friends. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, I have 5 casting directors who are my best friends.
Oh boy.
He said, that's all I needed. And I said, are they really your best friends? And he goes, yeah. But he's he's an authentic guy. But he made a point of making best friends with them and treating them like a best friend and all the things you do with best friends. And they felt that from him and they had the same feeling. So whenever they would have scripts, they would be going, we got to bring Rex in. We got to bring Rex in. Oh, here's a part for Rex. Let's make sure we get him in. And I'm thinking, man, that's another thing I wish someone had told me. 5 best friends, casting directors. And that will just keep you going because they're going to be the people who are going to be looking out for you, getting you in, having you seen by other folks. So, it's extremely difficult, but I think there are some things that if we just got a little smarter. And you talked about marketing. I mean, you gotta also learn how to carry yourself and how to, just all that stuff. That's just, learning how to live life.
Reminds me of Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I mean, all that old corny stuff. Yeah.
Now when I think about it, it's like really like if there's a certain industry you want to be in, you should go make friends with people in that industry because you guys are going to probably get along anyway because you have common goals. You're into the same things and lifestyles, and you get that. No, that makes complete sense.
You got to make friends.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to just sit at home all, by yourself. So why not people in the same business?
How do you think technology, and especially like during COVID, because a lot of it's gone to a lot of self-tapes and self-submissions and stuff. Like, how do you think that's changed the business?
Boy, I just, I worry that we're losing the connections, I just talked about making 5 best friends for casting directors, but now when do you ever meet the casting director? When are you going to have an opportunity to become friends with them? In the old days, we would go in for the audition. So you'd had a chance to chat up, again, I bet you when Rex was making friends with those people, they weren't the casting directors. They were the casting director assistants.
Right.
Again, like the person sitting next to you in class, they didn't have friends yet. They weren't the important person yet. So I bet you those were the people that he, was, extra nice to and just took his time to, So the self-tape thing, I think, makes it very challenging but also just technically learning how to do that. Jesus, you get on YouTube, there's a million videos on how to make good self-tapes. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of stuff you need to figure out in order to make good ones. And you have to learn how to act. I think it's so interesting. Most of those, when you watch them, they're all about the technical things, the headspace and where you are in the frame and medium close and all this. I'm going, well, but if you're not acting well, then all that stuff is not going to
matter.
It's not going to matter. So you need to have the ability to really not just to do good work, but to know how to prepare for good work. Mm. I mean, I think that's the thing that is the hardest thing for actors to learn when they're acting is not just how to act, but how to get a script, look at it, figure out what you need to do, rehearse it, find a good scene partner to work with, all those things to bring it to life, make some creative decisions, know when to ask questions, creative questions, to go one direction or another, and then finally just making some decisions and go in that direction, making some strong choice. that I think a lot of actors haven't learned those skills. And that's critical, obviously, for self-tapes.
And I want to touch more on the Meisner Institute.
All right.
Because I started thinking, I mean, you've been to so many places. Like it's, outside of just acting in general, like what is it like going to the other? I haven't really traveled. Not really. I have not traveled the world, so I'm always curious to hear what it's like living in these other. Like when you go, are you going for a couple weeks? Or are you going for like months at a time?
Well, China, I was there for 4 years.
4 years straight?
Yeah. I mean, I would come back for like a month. I was it was a school in Shanghai Theater Academy, hired me, and then worked there 3.5 years. But I was there for the semester, and then I'd come home for a month, and then go back for the next semester, be off for like a month or two in the summer, and then go back again. So I had time back with the family, but it was 4 months stretch where I was just there teaching classes. And other places, shorter time, a week, 2 weeks, a month, depending on what we've worked out to do. I love everybody I meet. Spending your life around actors and teachers is, they're the best people ever. The cultures are amazing. I mean, we're a little isolated here in the U.S. sometimes. I think we don't really understand how rich the world is culturally, and it's fascinating to sit in a class watching two people act and not be able to understand a single word they're saying, and still know if it's good acting or not. It was the strangest thing when I first went to China. I was thinking, how in the hell am I going to do this? Because I had a translator, but get improvisation going, and it's and they're talking so fast, the translator can't keep up. Mm-hmm. And so I have this translator just like going, trying to like talk. And I finally said, I tell you what, just tell me the situation. What's the situation? Husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, breaking up, getting together, first date. Well, just tell me and they say, oh, it's husband and wife getting a divorce and saying goodbye for the last time. And I say, okay. And then I just watch. And I swear to you, that's all you need to just watch the behavior. And if it's a husband and wife that are saying goodbye for the last time, it'll be in their behavior. And if it's not in the behavior, if you're not seeing the behavior, then it's not there. Doesn't matter what the words are that they're saying. And that really, Meisner talks about finding the behavior, and you hear that over and over again. But it's so interesting when you can't understand the words, that you're only forced to watch behavior, that you understand how profound that statement is. I mean, it's like you're going, what is it? Like you're sitting here, and it's not like they're changing very much. It's just, I was reading this about the face, that most of the muscles in our face we have no control over, almost none. So all those muscles that would make me think, oh, he looks a little sad. Like right now, you look a little sad. There's a little sadness in your eyes. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay, a little bit. So I'm just a little. I'm just seeing it. But again, what muscles are, what's changing? And now you, yeah. I mean,
am I sad, or am I just trying to concentrate?
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, but it's so fascinating. It's like. Yeah. Like, how am I seeing that? I mean, what's changed in your face? And now
that's interesting.
Yeah. And what you realize is we have no control over that. So it's like what Meisner talks about. And unless you experience it, it's not going to happen in your face. You have to actually experience the sadness on some level, maybe even if you're not aware of it, but you have to experience it. And then all these little muscles are doing the things that they do that make someone go, oh my God, are you okay? Or, oh my God, you're happy today. You know how you have that where you walk into a room and people go, wow.
Yeah.
It happened to me one time. I just been with a girl having a great time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like one of those, like, big moments.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was romantic. I mean, it was not just fun stuff. It was like, it was falling in love moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I swear I walked into the room and people go, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" And I swear I'm just going, I wasn't even aware of anything different in me, but just, they just are looking at me and they're watching my behavior and they can just see that this is a man that just fell in love. So that was being overseas and learning that really has helped me as a teacher to be able to watch behavior and really understand what it is that we're trying to teach actors when we're talking about behavior and finding the behavior of the scene. It's the behavior of a husband who's saying goodbye to his wife for the last time. There's a behavior in that, and we'll see that as the audience. The other thing I thought was interesting about it is that and I've been saying this a lot, the audience will fill in the gaps for us. So that's why it's always better to do less than more. I mean, that's another Meisner thing you learn is, if you got nothing going, just listen.
Oh yeah, trust me.
And I realized that the audience knows the story, right? We know that you're with your wife. We know that this is the last time you guys are going to be together. We know it's a goodbye. And so now we're filling in like, oh my God, he's just sitting there. He has no expression. Oh my God, he must be really upset. We're like imagining for you. Now, if you start faking things, then you force us, the audience, to go, well, that was weird. That seemed fake. But if you're just relaxed, the audience is they're doing all that work for you. I'm really starting to understand that now, and how important that is to let the audience have the fun of discovering what you're feeling.
Yeah, and that reminds me of one of the things that I really took toward the end when before the COVID shutdowns and in class was that sometimes, yeah, you're right, less is more, and just those moments of stillness. Don't force anything. Like if you guys don't talk for however long, even in a scripted scene, like let those moments be there. Yeah. You just don't have to jump back and forth with dialogue.
We get impatient. So
yeah, and I'm thinking about people watching and listening. I know a lot of people we know will know Meisner Technique, but how do you describe the Meisner Technique for anyone watching or listening that isn't familiar with what it is?
It's a simple, direct, and effective way to learn the foundational skills of good acting. Meisner was a pianist, and one of the insights he had when he started teaching was that just like when you start playing a piano, you have to learn the chords and the keys and the finger movements and all that stuff. There's basic foundational skills that an actor needs to learn at the beginning of their training. I really do think that Meisner was really, I'm always surprised when I don't hear that said by other teachers. You got to start with the foundation skills. And he came up with a series of exercises that taught and helped actors make those skills habitual in their work. Really doing whatever you're doing. You're really listening to me. Mm-hmm. I'm really talking to you. If we were filming this would be good because we're really doing what we're doing. Mm. Really putting our attention on the other person and responding to them moment to moment from our impulses. Those skills are things that actors need to always have and be doing. Learning how to emotionally prepare for the first moment of a scene, inventing specific and meaningful points of view. Just the basic skills that go 90% of the way to working well as an actor. There's some advanced work on character stuff, but really Meisner's genius, I think, was the early work. Mm. He front loads his work. You get the best stuff first. Really doing. I mean, it's so interesting. It's the first thing you learn, but you quickly go to repetition. Yeah. But there was a great interview that Meisner had with he and Stella Adler, and then this other woman who was a teacher from Russia. And at some point, he got frustrated with the conversation. It was all academic kind of stuff. He goes, I'm not going to say anything more. And so the rest, I mean, it was an article, and like he just stopped talking. So then it was Stella Adler and this other teacher talking.
He just exited the.
He said, "I'll say something at the end. I don't like all these words that we're talking about, right?" And at the end, he goes. They found the interviewer said, "So, Mr. Meisner, you said you were going to say something." He goes, "Yeah, it's really doing. That's what it's all about. It's about really doing. That's what it is. That's all I need to say. That's all you need to hear. Done." And I thought, oh my God, that's like he loved to not mystify acting. He loved to keep it simple. I mean, think about that for a second. Someone who's been teaching for 60 years, who's worked with all these great actors, and you finally say, so what's, tell us all about acting. Because it's really doing. That's it.
That's it?
Done. And you're going, there's that great interview with Robert Duvall who, you know the story about Robert Duvall? And so Robert Duvall studied with Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
And
with Stella Adler, right?
He may have studied with Stella Adler also, but he was really a Meisner guy.
Okay. And
he talks about his work with Meisner. And it took him a while before, he had kind of gotten into acting late, and then he took some classes in New York, and then he was unemployed for a few years. And so during that time, and this was after Meisner he had Gregory Peck, Princess Grace. I mean, all these amazing actors that he had trained that were winning Academy Awards, and John Voight, Steve McQueen. I mean, just on James Caan, all these people. And so Jimmy Carville told me the story. So during that time when Duvall had been a student and then was out of work in New York, they'd be at dinner, and the people always say, "Hey, Sandy, you work with so many great actors. Like, who's the greatest actor you've ever worked with?" And he'd say, "There was this kid that just was in my class. His name is Robert Duvall. And, he hasn't got any work yet. He's the most talented actor I've ever worked with." I mean, that he saw what other people didn't see for a while. I mean, he just could tell. And again, in comparison to these other amazing actors that he had in class, he just saw that Duvall was special. But Duvall talks about, I don't know if you've seen that interview where he's talking about a scene with Brando in Godfather.
I don't think so.
Oh, it's a great interview where, it's where he's telling Brando that his son's been shot, right? And Duvall's talking about how Brando would he never did, got to listen to it, because he said, Brando it was never like action, no action. Brando was just there. I mean, he was, when he sat down, he was in the scene. Yeah. There was no like action and now we start. Right. He was just there. He would just kind of float in and out. And Duvall was just talking about these amazing moments that Brando was having as they're doing this scene. And he said, and then Duvall said, it's just about, I talk, you listen, you talk, I listen, talk, listen, listen. That's all it is. And you're going, and you're thinking, that's it. And it again, if you have the imagination, if you can believe in the imaginary circumstances, and you understand the imaginary circumstances, sometimes there's some rehearsal stuff you have to do to understand a life that is not familiar to you. But once you understand that, then it is just talk, listen, listen.
Yeah. And it's funny, for me personally, and again, I'm not even close to mastering this, but you do all this work and you go through all these exercises and training, and at the end of the day, like some of my teachers said, look, just do the scene as Sam.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, do the scene as Sam.
But this isn't Sam. Like, this is this role that's written. Like, no, you're coming to the role and you're bringing yourself to the role.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to get caught up in ideas, to get caught up in, I'm going to do it like this, or I'm going to come in like that. It's like you have to fill that life, but you have to do it as you. And I now get the concept a lot more, but like, again, getting it and actually doing it can be hard because we get in our own heads.
All right. So, the repetition exercise.
Oh, yeah.
Like the beginning one.
Oh, yeah.
You're wearing a jacket.
I'm wearing a jacket.
Actually, you've skipped on to the second part. You have to repeat exactly what I say.
Oh, I've already messed up. Okay.
Oh, I've already messed up.
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 Oh, I've already messed up. All right. That's the exercise.
Yeah.
It's that simple, right? Just, okay. So, when you kind of advance it for a while, then, after a while, it can get to some interesting stuff.
Yeah, it can.
But at the beginning, it's just,
Yeah.
it was you and me sitting here, first day in class, and we're gonna. So I'm in China, and it's the first time I've gone there, and so I'm going to show you repetition. And this woman gets up, and she's one of the students there. And I don't know what happened, but it's like she had no filters. None. Like in herself. So everything that the other person's saying is like a dagger to her heart. I mean, it's just everything. She's just that open. And by the end of it, I'll send you this picture because I want you should. This is how she ended up.
Oh my gosh.
This is the end of the first repetition exercise.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Just doing the first level of repetition.
What we just did.
That's how affected she was.
And there's no pushing, there's no nothing.
That should be like blown up and framed and like,
isn't it? Like
that's
just amazing.
Picture,
here,
yeah.
you guys see this? You can see this.
Wow.
I mean, I'm going, okay, now that's talent. That's like,
man, just imagine when she does a scene.
So when, that's, of course, we're blessed to be able to be in rooms with people who are having those types of experiences. And, you ask about the Meisner approach. What I love about it is it, for most people, it gives them an easy access, a simple access to that work. If they can just relax and accept it. And so you just see people coming to life in ways that they could have never imagined you could have never imagined. But there it is. It's happening. It's that woman in that chair having that experience.
Yeah. And we all in this room have been through the Meisner Technique, and I've told people outside of acting, I can take this with me for the rest of my life. Like even with the job I do now, I do pharmaceutical sales. I'm constantly doing doors and activities.
Well, when I was walking into people's homes where they were dying of mesothelioma, boy, you better believe my attention was on them and really taking them in and opening my heart to them. I had to. I mean, it was sacred. It's their final days. I mean, it's you're coming into you have to find a way to really respect that and live up to the requirement of being with someone. And it's only because of the Meisner work that I really had the ability to do that.
And that's heavy because, like you said, like acting's one thing and that's imaginary world, but that was real life.
Yeah.
That you were really going into those situations and feeling that energy and pain. And
one guy, 15 minutes after I was there, passed away. So he was that close to death, and he said, I want you to take care of my family. That was what was so amazing is he said, I know I'm going to die, but it's my wife and my kids that I'm worried about. Mostly guys, because most of the exposure was from work-related stuff. Yeah, so Meisner work, pretty special.
Yeah, it is. And I have to shout out the airport Running Man.
Well,
now it all makes sense because now that I know more of your story.
Well, that came from when I was doing that work because I 47 states. I was everywhere, all over the.
Oh, that came from doing the attorney work.
Yeah, I was on planes. I'd visit 2 or 3 states a week, so I'd be landing in Missoula, Montana, driving to someone's house, getting the contract signed to help them out, going back to the airport, I get a call saying, hey, you got to be in Kansas City tomorrow. We just set up an appointment for you. So I'm getting a flight to Kansas City. And I'm traveling like that so much. I'm thinking, well,
where were you based at the time? Were you in California?
At the time I was in Texas.
In Texas.
Yeah, we were in Texas for a while. So because I was traveling so much and I was I'd been a runner in high school. And so I just thought, well, I got to keep in shape. And often I had to run to catch my flight, because if I miss the flight, then, I might miss the opportunity to meet with this family, and time was of the essence. So, I got in the habit of running, and then I got the silly idea that I should record myself running and post it. Was when Instagram was just getting off the ground. And then I came up with ba 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 ba. I don't know why I said that, but so that was the beginning of the Airport Running Man.
Okay.
And I am proud to say that I own that niche. There is no one else who is competing for the Airport Running Man title. It's but me.
And that's Airport Running Man on Instagram. Correct?
On Instagram, yeah. The better one to go to is Meisner.Institute, because that's where we talk about the Meisner book.
Yeah.
But if you want to see a guy running through a lot of airports, Airport Running Man, one word, that's me.
You probably racked up the frequent flyer miles.
Oh, yeah.
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 I'm starting to fly more for my job too. You got any advice for? I don't think I'm gonna fly as much as what you were, but
you can jump in on the running thing. Do some videos and post them, and I'll repost them for you. We can
maybe start the hashtag Airport Running Man.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! And we're getting to the end here, but first of all, I just wanted to say thank you for coming. And I didn't acknowledge this in the beginning, but I think it stopped, but it was pouring rain when you first got here. There was thunder, and then someone was with a loud bass system was out there.
I went over Coldwater Canyon to get here, and there were a few moments where I was not sure if we were going to make it.
Oh man!
But it was good. I'm so supportive of what you're doing, Sam. It's as many people as can need to hear about the work that of the folks that you're associated with, and help them understand the business and connect them with people who are good folks. I mean, there's a lot of good folks that we know.
Yeah, there really is.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I tell people too. Like when people say, "Oh, LA's fake," or "There's no good people in LA," and I'm very fortunate. I don't know if Daryl Morris. Did you ever run into him at Playhouse West?
Daryl Morris.
He lives in Las Vegas. He was my acting coach in Vegas.
The name is familiar.
Here.
Maybe
you might recognize him, but just lives and breathes Playhouse West, and kept telling me. And then when the opportunity came to move to LA, he just looked at me. He's like, "Well, you're going to Playhouse West, right?" I'm like, "Well, I guess I am." And so I knew about this place coming here, but it's amazing. Like I'd meet people, and like night one. Yeah. Night one, I audited right over across on Lancashire. Chris Levy. I was an auditor, and I had like 5 pages of notes from Chris alone, and just the instant network. That's what just blew my mind, and just people I just genuinely, and I have a theory on this, like just got along with, but I think we all have, similar to what you were saying, like pick your friends. Like we all have the same mentality. We may do different things, but we all share this dream.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I got friends for life. At this place.
It's just so intense, these moments. And I don't, it's hard to describe a class where everyone starts really opening up and dealing with really, with scenes typically involve some pretty strong situations, imaginary situations. And so we're living those out. I mean, again, the Meisner approach is about actually experiencing those moments. So I'm watching you on stage having an emotional breakdown because your best friend slept with your girlfriend and now has run off with her. And we're just watching you fall apart in front of us. And you are actually falling apart. I mean, we're privileged to actually be there with you as that happens. and then talk to you afterwards. And then we're going up, and we of course, I'm watching you work. I'm going, oh man, I want to do, I want to get to that level too. What do I got to do? And then I'm inspired by you, and then you're inspired by me. And then we're all working together, and just, it's like a drug.
Yeah.
It really is.
I can't tell you how many times where I'd be working all day and like, oh man, we got class tonight.
Yeah.
And you've rehearsed 10 times leading up to class and you got, all this. And you're like, man, how are we going to get through tonight? And it, a lot of times wasn't even the work that you yourself did. It was watching the work that everyone else brought. And I swear to you, it was like coffee. I would go in like tired and lethargic. I'd be leaving, talking out in the parking lot like we are right now for an hour and a half. On cloud nine.
I try to be very patient when I'm working with actors, because every person has their own thing, but it drives me to distraction when I see that they're not paying attention to other exercises, because for me, that was the best part of class. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love doing my own work, but really it was, watching you guys.
I agree.
I would just sit there for 3 hours in just awe as I watched exercise after exercise and just all this great work. Or when it went bad, then, I'd go, oh, is that a problem? Then I'd be waiting for the teacher to see if they thought the same thing. So I'd be anticipating, are they going to say something? So that's the joy of that experience. And like you said, the relationships you develop from that. I mean, you other than maybe family members, you're never going to have that kind of intensity of life with people. Oh yeah.
I mean, we're giving hugs and talking like we've been cousins for our whole lives.
Yeah.
It's like you finally feel like you met your people in the world. They're like, oh, I get in really, really quick. I, did the 2-year program. COVID happened, shut down. I had a leg injury, out of it for a while. Well, I had a break in the action from work, and I got to rejoin. I joined Wolf's class for a month.
Oh, did you?
And Eric, who you saw in the play, him and Ford.
Yeah.
Shout out to Some Men Need Help, directed by Wolf. And I don't know if you know, Eric's is my next door neighbor too.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, that's a whole other story.
The moment I had in that play was with Eric. I thought he did some really nice work.
Yeah,
I was really taken by him. So I mean, that was what made it worth getting up and going out and going to some small little theater in North Hollywood. There was this guy just having this experience, and not a stranger, and I started crying.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the audience. I had tears coming down. I don't know why. I mean, it's just something.
Yeah.
There's a vulnerability that it allows it to be there. Yeah. That's what I felt with him.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. And to that point, it's, they were doing some scenes in class, and Wolf said, some of the alumni, you guys can come and watch the scenes in class. And I go, and I hadn't been in that studio since the shutdown.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, this is what I've been missing. Like, it's like no one has any idea on this Monday morning what is going on. Like, there's going to be all these cars that drive by this place and not even look. They have no idea what's happening within these walls. Yeah. So I come back, and just to go be able to experience that again and see people doing the work and doing the different exercises. It was a great to remind me again. I told Wolf, I'm like, it was like, Robin Williams and Hook, the movie Hook, where, he was Peter Pan, but then he forgot it all. Yeah. But they have to remind him. They're just like, hey, remember this over here? Yeah. Oh, it's fun. So where can people find you? Where, if they want to follow you, if they want to check out the Meisner Institute?
Meisner Institute. So there's a website, meisnerinstitute.com. You can go there to get information. We have Meisner.institute, which is the Instagram account. So, we now have Meisner Institute Athens. We have Meisner Institute Poland. We have Meisner Studio Manila. I mean, these are all programs that have been done from people studying to become teachers and working with them, and then them opening their own studio. So we're growing the Meisner world. We don't need to do it too much here, because you throw a rock, you hit a Meisner program in LA. But I just was in Athens with Alkistis, who's this amazing, wonderful actor and teacher. And she started Meisner Institute Athens. And you can walk out of her classroom and look up, and there's the Acropolis. And you can see the theater where thousands of years ago they were doing the Greek tragedies. And you can go, and you're just thinking, oh my God, that's where it started. And here we are now, Meisner, she's doing all the stuff that we love so much. And it's like she's bringing it back.
That gave me chills, by the way. Like, that just sounds like that's where I want to go. Greece has been on my list anyway. So,
I made a promise to her that I would see her at least once a year because I have that same. It's profound, the experience.
It's like going back to Mecca. I mean,
it feels like that.
Yeah, it really
feels
is.
like that. Yeah. We will go there.
Yeah.
But what I love is there's the Meisner School right there. And I've had a small part in helping Alkistis learn the things she needed to learn and help her figure out the things she needed to do to start that studio. That's the work that the Meisner Institute is really, I think, the most important thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what, I always give the guests the last word.
Yeah.
It can be something, future plans, anything else you wanted to say, something profound, or it can be absolutely nothing at all.
God, that's a really, I'm grateful that we're just taking our time talking, Sam. I love to tell stories. I love all that stuff. But there's an interesting connection with you, and again, I think doing the Meisner work allows us to be able to relax into that. Most times we would never have this. Because in real life, you kind of, we'd look away, we'd, be polite. And so this is the best moment of the thing is just looking at, you got these eyes, and I'm just going, wow, this is a guy, this is Sam. And this is what I want to spend my life with, is being able just to look someone in the eyes and then being able to look at me, and we're okay with that, and we're letting that go wherever it's going to go. I wish so much we had a scene right now, because I think we'd go right into whatever that was. Really. Yeah.
Well. So go into the scene.
Go ahead. Go into the scene. Yeah. Go ahead. Start talking.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what you said earlier about taking it to the next level. I really do feel like this has just been a seamless podcast. Like I just feel like it's just been this smooth ride since you've sat down here. So the energy's just been good the entire time, and the connection. And I'm really grateful that, especially again, for people that don't live in Los Angeles, it never rains like this ever. It's pouring out there. It's thunder, probably some lightning, and you drove through the hills to come to North Hollywood. So I really appreciate it.
I grew up in Oklahoma, where we had tornadoes every other week.
That is true. So. I grew up in Illinois.
So we can't complain here about anything.
I know, because it's going to be about 10 months of sunshine after this. So, Well, Scott, thank you so much again. Safe travels wherever you're going next. Is there other future plans for the Meisner Institute right now?
We go back to Egypt next year for sure. They've had a great, so many great stories about Egypt.
That's on my to-do list too.
Oh, they are. It's special there. So Egypt is on the travel list. China, getting back there. I may have some Russians coming this summer. Again, the Ukraine thing is really gummed up stuff with them, but there's a good chance we'll get some Russians here in LA and make some films. Any interest?
Hey, somebody say films.
That's what I told him. I said, if you come to LA, we'll make films.
Yeah, I want to make stuff. So
I do too.
Yeah, whoever's involved. Yeah.
That's my word for the year is create.
Yeah.
I'm we can go to class a lot, but at some point we got to start telling the stories. And so I just this morning was watching 5 films that I made with some these German Meisner students in Germany last year.
Wow.
And they just finished in 5 short films. They're not the great, they're not going to win any Oscars, but they were beautiful little stories that we told. And we were on Zoom watching the films together. And so that's what is on. I'm hoping when I see you in 2024, I'm going to say, hey, look what we created this year.
Create over consume.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, Scott.
All right, man.
Thank you, my friend. There'll be more conversations.
There will.
But thank you so much. Very blessed you came on, and here's to creating in the future.
All right. I give my heart to you.
I'll take it, and I give mine right back. Thank you, Scott.
All right. Thank you.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Sam Dever podcast. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you watch the podcast, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@the Sam Dever podcast.